I started dabbling in high school. My oldest son's father, I met him when I was 17 years old, and he was kind of that bad boy, and he introduced me to a lot of drugs. And I hung out with him, and I'll never forget it. We would drink occasionally, but he was using cocaine and heroin, and he asked me to try it, and I did. And I knew right from that moment, this was not just normal partying anymore. This was, I really, really, really liked this, and I never wanted to stop doing it. I didn't go to school. I was very disobedient to my parents. I just kind of did everything I could to just chase that high. He had his own apartment, and they were selling drugs out of the apartment. It wasn't a good situation, but I had stayed over there, and I'll never forget, my dad came there, and he took me out of that house and he took me home. Shortly after that, I found out that I was pregnant, and so I just stayed at home from then on. After he was born, though, it didn't take me long. I started feeling lonely, depressed. I didn't feel good about myself. I've always had low self-esteem, always struggled with that so bad, and drugs just always filled that void for me. My addiction took me, I guess, when I laid down for the first time in an abandoned building because I had nowhere to go. I had nobody on my side. I didn't have my children. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't care as long as I had enough money and enough dope for the night. That was fine with me. But sleeping in that abandoned building across the train tracks on West 16th and Myrtle, I'll never forget that. Every night I prayed to die. I prayed to die. I wanted to get clean, but I didn't know how. It was the only thing that made me feel better. I didn't know any other way of life because I had been doing it for so long. I just knew that it would always make me feel better. My addiction stole my family. That was the biggest thing. And my children. I don't think that ever stops hurting. I don't think it ever stops hurting. I have a great relationship with my oldest boys, but I am not with them. And everything materialistic, I never had a car to drive. I never had a warm place to sleep. I never had a bank account, anything like that. So, even small stuff now that I took for granted. Drugs stole everything from me. Everything.
My first impression of Kristen was that she had a certain level of what I would call like self-knowing. She just knew things about herself, and she was able to articulate those in a very clear and concise way. She was very smart, very savvy. She knew she wanted to be at Grace House, and so she was very upfront with not only the strengths that she had, but also the weaknesses. I think she had reached a point with that knowledge of self. If I step out of this, there's a huge potential that I'm going to be right back at square one. And so she saw this as an opportunity to just commit herself one more step to the goals that she had for herself.
This was a program unlike any other thing that I had ever been through in my life. I came here, I was immediately welcomed with open arms. This house was so beautiful, and I it didn't even seem real at first. It was focusing on my recovery 100%, but in a way that was so inviting and so comfortable. It didn't feel like work. It didn't feel like this was hard work. It felt like, okay, I could get used to this. I like this.
Like, she got a hold of something and she's not gonna let that go. She got a hold of clean time. She got a hold of her family. She got a hold of this idea that she could have a home, have a job, you know, have that foundation. And she never let that go, even when other things tried to take it away from her.
For me, without that stepping stone of the Grace House, I don't think that my life would at all be where I am at today. And the Grace House has played a huge role in my recovery, and I will forever be grateful for this program, and I will never forget it, never. I'm not white knuckling it today. Today my problems consist of bills and cleaning up the house and doing laundry and fun adulting, I guess they call it. But my, you know, and I love that. I love that my responsibilities have shifted. I love that I'm clean and sober.